Hello, this is Abby.
Dear Abbey, this is gonna be a long one.
Oh boy.
Dear Abbey, how do you tell the difference between a new exciting crush and a rebound?
Does it matter?
Dear Abbey.
Dear Abbey.
Dear Abbey.
Welcome to our little corner of the internet. This is the Dear Abbey podcast. I hope you stay and hang out with us. See you in a sec. Hi, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of Dear Abbey. I'm your host. My name is Abby. Welcome back. I hope everybody is having a beautiful Thursday or whatever day you're listening to this. I'm very excited to be recording because it's been a while since I've slowed down. I've been extremely disciplined, not to toot my own horn, but that just wasn't a pattern in my life of having in a lot of areas. Like more than one area I've been disciplined. Usually it's like one area I'm disciplined in my life, everything else like kind of gets all smushed in the background. But lately I've been like prioritizing a lot of good stuff and actually staying consistent and having discipline, which is amazing, and I'm getting a lot of stuff done and it feels good and I'm really proud of myself. But at the same time, I think I'm bordering the side of doing too much and not being enough and letting myself just exist, and that's okay too. I don't know if it's ever possible to get the perfect balance of both, but I just like to take the time when I'm recording to slow down and reflect and be more, I think, present with myself and without anything to do. That being said, I have reflected a lot on how different I am versus 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I'm living a completely different life than I was just a couple years ago. And I'm a lot happier. I'm a lot more at peace. And I'm mentally doing a lot better. I'm also struggling in different ways than I used to. I think when I was a little bit younger, I used to be less worried about what was the right thing to do in this world, and obviously my career and just random stuff. Like, what's the best thing I could be doing is something that I am just thinking about a lot more now than I used to. I feel like I used to feel like I knew, and maybe I did, I don't know, but now I feel a little bit more uncertain with things, or maybe now I'm just more aware of it. I don't know, but I just feel different. I don't know. Different things are hard and different things are easier. And I think mentally it's actually really weird to be consistently doing good. And mentally, I think the only thing I really struggle with now consistently, and I still have bad OCD days and nights and weird dream nightmare things with OCD. I still have those thoughts and feelings and intrusive images, but they don't control my life. I still don't enjoy them, nor do I like when they show up, but I definitely can live with them now. I can focus on other things a lot better than I used to, because I used to only focus on the obsessions. So that's way different. But because I'm doing better and I'm showing up for myself, I'm doing what I want to do to take care of my body, honestly, is number one, and my mind mentally. And, job wise, I feel like I'm doing a lot. And it's weird because I don't feel like I know myself anymore, which is an interesting thing because I don't want to go back to who I was, because she got herself unknowingly into a really bad situation mentally and emotionally. So I wouldn't want to be her again, but I have so much love for her and who I was. She is special to me, and the part of me that suffered so much in my mental turbulence and emotional disturbances. I feel so much love and compassion for her, but I'm not her anymore. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing when I'm doing better and I'm like, I don't know who I am when I'm not an obsessive compulsive all the time person, when I don't overthink everything all the time. And I feel like, do I not care as much because I don't overthink? Do I not I don't know. And it's just a weird thing. And so Anyways, I have to tell myself and remind myself, which I'm sure a lot of you guys too feel the same way when things are just way different in your life, that you're still the same you. Like, I've been with myself my whole life. I don't know if that sounds crazy, but I have been with myself my whole life, and that I'm still figuring out life and I'm still figuring myself out. It's just a time of discovery, I think, of being healthier mentally and knowing how to live with that. It just consumed so much of my time, I think, that I wasn't able to go on a walk without obsessing the whole time. So now that I don't have the obsessions control my life, I don't even know what to think about. Like, it's weird to me that I can think about positive stuff and also that I can think about constructive stuff versus trying to prevent all the worst things to happen. And I felt very useful doing that. That's the thing. It's not like an easy thing to give up sometimes now, even still, because it feels like it's useful. And it is for specific real life situations that you do need to actually sit down, think about, figure it out. What's the best plan of action? Or if you just feel like a little bit sad or, an emotion that you've kept feeling and you can't really figure out why. And so you need to take a moment or a day and just journal, be with yourself, try to understand your feelings and work them out. I also had been in therapy for years, and now it's been a couple of months of not going, and I feel okay. I still do exposures every day, and I'm very intentional. Like, if I'm watching a movie, if we go to the movie theaters, still very triggering for me. But I also don't go overboard with my exposures like I used to. Anyways, I could go on and on because I'm just in a reflective state of mind right now. But I want to be a little bit more organized than that instead of just chaos all over the place. So with that being said, today I wanted to talk about timing. It's been something on my mind. To be specific, I get really in my head about when other people move on from things quicker than I do, or when someone learns from something quicker than I do, or if someone has more kids and they have a house already and they're just more along looking and they just feel more accomplished already earlier than I do. Everything can feel so rushed in life. I just barely got married and I already feel like I should have a house. Like, I should have already had that by now, is how it feels. I know better than that. And I also understand the current economy, and also if I wanted to live in California, the price of that. So I understand the logical part of it, but I think the emotional part and the more the emotional spiritual aspect of I'm not behind is a hard one for me right now. And a house is just one example, but something that really genuinely is hard for me is when I feel like somebody understands something quicker than I do, or when they learn faster than me. And I feel that at work, and I always felt that at school, especially with math. And sometimes I would feel that with my OCD recovery. I'd see someone who was recovered, or they would talk about being recovered, and I feel like my OCD used that to confirm that I was different than other people, because how come I wasn't better already? And how come I'm still struggling with this? If they said it took them 6 months, how come it's been like 3 years for me now and I'm still struggling? So I think that's probably really common, is to kind of use that as a way to further judge or shame or guilt trip yourself into believing that you are somehow different or worse than others in some way. I would assume that most people who listen to podcasts probably scroll every once in a while. I think a lot more people nowadays are less addicted to scrolling. Like, we are more disciplined, honestly, in that area, speaking of, where we know that there's so many negative things that come from doom scrolling or numbing yourself out, distracting, comparing, all of that stuff. We know better. So I do feel like we're better, but it's inevitable to still see, even if you're not scrolling, if you hear your friends, family, coworkers, other people, and you see their life, it doesn't have to be online for you to maybe feel a certain type of way about yourself, or somehow someone else's life and their timeline says something about you. I think that's more so what it can feel like, is because somebody else maybe got married and bought a house within a year, and you've been married for 5 years and you haven't been able to afford a house or haven't gotten one yet. then sometimes we can turn that into, okay, well, what's wrong with me? How come I'm behind, or how come my timeline isn't the same? I'd say most of the time it's kind of a way to make ourselves feel bad. I would hate for someone to listen to my podcast or anyone's podcast, really, specifically my OCD recovery story, and think that that's how it's going to look for them as well, or hear somebody's life story and think that that's how it's going to look for you. And then if it's any different from the person, maybe you look up to somebody, or maybe you want somebody's life, you admire it, and then if your life isn't exactly like that, then we can be mean to ourselves and we can shame ourselves, and that's just not fair to yourself to do that. Because everybody's timeline, everybody's life, everyone's story is going to be so different, and people learn differently on different timelines. It's just different, and your story is going to be different, and it's going to be so perfect for you and so unique to you and how you are and who you are, how you receive love, how you feel love, and also just what will actually bring you a lot of joy and happiness. I really believe that God is a God that knows you so fully, like more than we know ourselves. And he knows exactly how to lift our spirits, how to bring us joy, how to comfort us, how to give us peace. And it's different for everybody. There could be similarities, but I still feel like it's so personal, and it's so beautiful how different everyone is and how different everyone's stories, timelines, understandings can be at different points in their life. I think this is a reminder to myself and everyone that your story, whether it's heard a million times or not, is so beautiful and unique. And I think in a world of social media, or a world where everything is shared, and even before social media, people love to share what they do. They love to share their life. Who doesn't? Like, it's just fun to share and receive and exchange stories and beautiful pictures and videos and memories. But I think sometimes it's easy to compare what you're sharing versus what somebody else is sharing, and that can also make us feel less than. So it doesn't matter who you are, how many people are even looking at what you share, or where you're sharing things, or what you're sharing. What you have to share is different than what anyone else would have to share. And you might argue with that because you'd say everything's oversaturated, whatever. And I'm not even just talking about on social media. I'm talking about in general. Like, sometimes if we see that other people's lives may feel more exciting because they might get more people that are looking at it. It might look shinier. But don't let that dim your light of what you want to share, because your life is beautiful, and it's frustrating sometimes when I see that other people feel less than because of social status. And it's weird because in junior high and high school, I feel it was like a popularity contest. And when you get older, you think that you're done with that. And then social media for a while, I don't think it's as much like that, but for a while it kind of felt like the same thing, but at like an adult version, like an adulted version of a popularity contest. And I don't think most people intentionally think about it like that, and I think they think about it a little bit differently, but it's a very natural thing to want to feel loved and be accepted and loved by a lot of people because you're safer that way, right? But I think just because it's the most natural thing doesn't mean it could be the most helpful thing to everyone's happiness and joy. Your story is so uniquely you, and it's just beginning, and you have so much left in your life and beyond. Don't sell yourself short, and don't compare what you have to share against what someone else has to share, because they're both beautiful. So if you need a reminder that not everything has to be so rushed, this is it, okay? This is your reminder that things will be in your own timing. To be super technical, I believe things will be in God's timing, and his timing is perfect. And that can sound like a shallow belief or a shallow thing that people just regurgitate if you are a person of faith. But just know when I say that, that's after a lot of thinking and pondering and trying different things. and surrendering and humbling myself to understand that how would someone else's timing be more perfect than the creator of everything, who loves you more than anything could. He can give you more and differently. Anyways, I just am happy that I have this little corner of the internet with my listeners. You guys are the sweetest people. I get the sweetest messages every once in a while. And sometimes I don't respond because I might be thinking of what to say, and then I probably get distracted, and then I mean to go back, but then I lose it, and then it just piles up, and then I can't find it. So just know that if you've messaged me, I read every single one of my messages, and I really appreciate them, and I hold them very close to my heart. Okay, so I know it can feel weird to message someone and be vulnerable, and sometimes it can feel like, okay, they didn't care, or they're too busy, or they're too like, who cares? But I do really care, and I am sorry if I haven't responded. I can just get a little bit overwhelmed sometimes. So before we do a Dear Abbey, I know this is kind of backwards from how we normally do the podcast, but I wanted to share a quick story that was kind of crazy from this past weekend. So my husband and I went to Big Bear, which is in California, which is where I reside. We went camping in his truck because he has it all set up to where we don't use a tent anymore. We just use the bed of his truck. So for Christmas, he bought me a mattress heating pad for when it's cold, because I always am too cold at night, and then I'm kind of sad that I went camping because I'm just freezing and miserable most of the night. So he got me a heating pad, like a big one. He got me really warm thermal sleepwear. So they're just tight thermal long sleeve shirt, pants, wool socks, I think, or they're just very thick. I think they're wool socks, the warmest socks, basically. He got me a whole get up. So that way when we go camping, I'm actually having fun instead of just basically sitting where it's the warmest and not moving a muscle the whole time. Like, I'll literally just be sitting there like this for hours because I'm cold and I hate being cold. And okay, not like in a grumpy way, just like, and he's organizing the campsite and I'm just gonna sit and be warm. And he tells me to do it, okay? But this time, because I had my thermals, I had my beanie, I had my socks, I was warm, I was more prepared. I was able to actually help him around the camp and help cook, help clean, do my duties, and it was a way better experience. And sleeping was so warm, it was insane, even though it was like 20 something degrees and it started snowing. Okay, anyway, so my husband has a shower, like an outdoor shower that's heated, like it's called a rinse kit, and it has you attach propane tank to it, like a little propane tank, and you put in the water and the little thing, you connect all the stuff. Anyways, it's his little gadgets that he has a lot of gadgets for camping. So the last night we were there, we had been there for 2 days, and I felt gross, and it was smoky, my hair was smoky, my body just felt gross. I also hate using porta potties, and that's what they had. So I went to the bathroom. What do they call it? I don't know. Outdoor bathroom. Outhouse. And I accidentally walked in on a woman, but she did not lock the door. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. And she goes, no, I'm sorry. But it wasn't like we were standing there looking at each other while we were exchanging. It was like I was seeing a blurred image of her covering up while I shut the door in a hurry. But we had those exchange of words while we were both like, oh my gosh. So that was already bad enough. Go into the next little outhouse, open the door, sit down. It's pretty dark at this point, and I had to use the restroom, obviously. That's why I was there. And there were probably 20 spiders, pretty decent sized spiders in that outhouse. It felt like they were all looking at me, and maybe I have, arachnophobia, where you're scared of spiders, like you have a phobia towards it. I don't know if that's how you say that, but and I definitely have developed a pretty big fear of spiders. I know they're probably not going to bite me, and they're more scared of me than I am of them, but that doesn't matter, because when you're anxiety is attaching to something, you are having images, you are feeling crazy sensations of like bugs crawling all over you. You can kind of feel one biting you. And I just had all of these images of like all of the spider's eyes looking at me from all the different places in the dirty, dark outhouse. Well, I was vulnerable, bottoms out, trying to use the restroom in peace. It's really interesting to use the restroom in an unsafe place because you realize how vulnerable you are due to how much anxiety you have if you don't feel safe and how you cannot perform. You can't, nothing comes out. Nothing is, how do I say, passing when you are vulnerable, unsafe, and trying to use the restroom. I was sitting there for so long and eventually I just gave up because I literally couldn't get myself to use the restroom since I had so many images of spiders' eyes looking at me. I was just like this over the toilet and they were all staring at me simultaneously, like waiting for me. And I just couldn't do it. So I got up and I went back and then I just peed in the wilderness. And then I just didn't really have to use the restroom the rest of the time. I think my body knows to just hold it in. And I also barely drink water. After that whole fiasco, I felt dirty and gross and I feel like I had spiders all over me. So I'm also scared of ticks when we go out camping. So I'm always in long sleeves. You will never see me in short sleeve shorts. No, I don't want any ticks on me. That's disgusting. So I get back and my husband's like, okay, let's try the outdoor shower. Let's try it out. Let's see if it's warm. I think he's done it before, but I've never tried it. So I was like, okay, I'm a little bit hesitant because it's quite literally 30 degrees outside, but it might feel good. Sure. So stripped down, vulnerable in the woods, nothing on. All I have was a little headlamp on that's like red light, barely bright enough to see what's happening. I'm like getting changed. I'm getting ready. Keen's like, here, take my shoes because he had these big sandals and I just had sneakers. And so I traded shoes, put his shoes on. They're like 20 times my size. And so I put them on. And as soon as I took like 2 steps after I put on his shoes, my foot slipped out from under me and I fell right on my butt, right on my bare bum, onto the brush, the sticks, the dirt, the bugs probably, and I slid down a little bit because we were on a little bit of a slope. So I just was bare bum sliding down this hill, and there's a little ravine. Well, that was a fancy word. There's a little like creek thing. It kind of just looked like where they put the outhouse stuff. Do you know what I mean? It looked disgusting. So I dug in to stop before I hit the ravine because I did not want to get that anywhere near me. Keen obviously ran to help me up. I started crying because I felt so sad because I felt so dumb, A, and B, so vulnerable. And I fell in the brush and I'm like, oh, there's definitely ticks on me now. And now they're on my bum. But I continued with the shower because I felt even dirtier now and my butt got all scratched up. So now I have like a rash, scabbed up bum, some bruises. I got some bruises on the way down because I tried to stop with my elbow and there's just sticks and rocks and it was pitch black. I couldn't see anything. But it's crazy how much when your adrenaline kicks in, even with a small fall, because I was like, oh, I feel nothing. I just felt sad because I fell. Got done, got ready, got warm. Keen was super sweet, super helpful. He was like babying me at this point because I was just cold and sad. And I felt fine. But then once I got in the warm truck bed and I was getting ready to go to bed, that's when I started to realize how many small little bruises and scratches I must have gotten because my body felt just like that achy, sore, scratchy feeling when you fall or when something like that happens. But all in all, I would do it again. Not the falling part, but I would do the shower again, I think, this time with shoes that aren't too big. So that way I have a good foundation. And also it was kind of dumb that we did it on like a slope somewhere, but it's because it was a little bit hidden and it was like a public campground. So there were like maybe 3 other people, but they were pretty far. There's no way they saw, but still we try to hide. I didn't think that I would marry someone who was so obsessed with camping, but I did. And I like camping. Not as much as him though. Like I think he feels like a nomad and it's like nothing's tying me down, which I get, but that's not how I get that feeling. So last thing on camping. What's interesting is when I smell like smoke, I want to shower because I hate the smell of smoke. I hate it in my hair, on my clothes. It's just gross. But what's weird is I could go a shockingly long amount of time if I was sweaty and dirty. And what I mean by that is I have a legitimate genetic malfunction or a genetic mutation where I don't have body odor, period. Like I don't have pheromones, I don't think, if that's the right word. I don't think I have any of whatever those are. But I also have no BO. Like I never smell bad. And people might say, okay, yeah, you would say that. You're probably just used to your smell. Multiple times, I have asked my husband to smell my armpits after running, after hard workouts, after we did a workout, and then we went bouldering for 3 hours, or we went climbing for 3 hours. After a sauna, I mean, I've asked him to smell my armpits and smell me like so many times to see if I'm crazy or if I genuinely have no body odor. And he's never once said that I have smelled bad. But I'm like, has he ever said I've smelled good? I don't think so. Sad. I have no pheromones. Other women have pheromones. I got nothing. I have nothing. With that being said, when I sweat a lot, I don't smell bad. Like I don't smell gross. My body smells like warm, but it doesn't smell like sweat. I don't know how to describe it. It also is interesting because we were looking into this, and it's actually like a real thing. Like I'm actually not kidding when I'm saying this. It's a legitimate thing. And also my dad has the same thing, which is weird. And then the other thing is it gives you, this is so gross. So sorry, not sorry. But if you have dry earwax instead of like wet, or I don't know what the frick else you guys have, weirdos. But I have dry earwax, and it's like, maybe that's grosser to you guys if you have normal earwax, but mine's awesome because it doesn't like get gross. It just like is almost like ear dust that just falls out, and it just does it by itself. And it doesn't sound like some sticky, disgusting gunk that comes out. It's just like a little ear dust, like an ear dust bunny. But it is really weird to think that my whole life, I thought I was normal with dry earwax and no body odor. Actually, I take that back. I knew in elementary school very early on that some people had body odor and that was a thing. But the earwax was not a thing that I knew was different about me. It's kind of my superpower. I could not shower for like a long freaking time and smell okay. So if I ever went on Survivor, I think I would do okay because I don't even really care to shower because I never smelled really bad, or I don't feel that dirty because I don't smell anything. So I could handle that. I think my hair would be the thing that would drive me the most insane because it would just get like dreadlock-y. I would have no problem just being dirty and just never showering. It would feel so good to shower. I'm not saying it wouldn't, but saying I could definitely handle that more than other people. Maybe that could be my pitch if I ever wanted to go on Survivor. I think I would make bad TV. Or, okay, let's do a Dear Abbey and then we'll end today's episode. Hey Abby, love the pod. I get nervous about telling a future relationship about my intrusive thoughts and worried that they will think those are real desires. How can I know the best time/way to tell them about the heavier subjects of OCD? I didn't ever feel emotionally close enough to my last relationship to tell them about it, even though they did know that I had OCD. Okay, so I like this question because a couple things I would say. One, I don't think you need to tell your partner all of your intrusive thoughts. And I actually think that's bad for recovery and for some people if they feel like they need to confess or they feel like other people need to know everything. So that way they have it off their chest, because what if it is real? Then they can, I don't know, at least say that they told someone or something. So I think that can get a little bit sticky. So I'd say you don't have to always tell your significant other all the deep details of your intrusive thoughts because they don't actually really matter. And it's hard, and it doesn't feel like that at first when you're in recovery because they feel like all encompassing and the details feel like they do matter. But I promise, like, the more you do recovery work, the less the details matter. So the easier it'll be to not feel like you have to tell your partner about all of the deep OCD stuff. 2, I think it's something that is common to fear opening up about OCD to a relationship. I know I've had multiple conversations with my now husband when we were dating about it, and he didn't understand. And I remember I told him something about harm OCD, and I think I was telling him like some of the thoughts sometimes. And this is when I didn't understand that I probably shouldn't just tell everything to him. Like it was more of a getting it off my chest and having him kind of reassure me. That's kind of the cycle I was in. But I remember I told him something and he's like, well, do they actually want to do that stuff? He just didn't understand. And so that was like the most triggering. I still remember being so distraught and triggered, and I like wanted to crawl out of my skin because I felt embarrassed, because obviously no, I don't want to do any of that stuff. I should have never said anything is how I felt. And also I felt really misunderstood in that moment. And it's not his fault, and it's not here to badger, like everyone should understand. But now that we've had a close relationship and I've opened up more times about my OCD, but not the details, just more so in general what I struggle with and what he can help me with. I feel like it's created a safer space where he understands the disorder. I think one of the main things, I think the reason why I wouldn't go around telling people my intrusive thoughts if I'm new in a relationship is if they don't understand. And it's not anything against you. It's just if they don't understand and you haven't kind of sussed out if they're a safe person and if they want to like understand and care about you, then they can be judgmental and hurt you and use something against you and use something that you said against you. And yeah, I think it's okay to kind of guard yourself a little bit until you feel safe to open up and share a little bit about your inner world. Okay, and then 3, I think a good time to know when to open up is if you've had conversations about mental health before and how they react to it or what their attitude towards it is. Sometimes some people can be not understanding about mental health because they're kind of just mean, or they might not be understanding because they just don't understand and they're willing to learn more. And if you talk about it with somebody and they're receptive and they're actually listening to you and trying to understand, I think that's a safe person to open up to about that. But I wouldn't do that the first time you talk about mental health or anything like that pops up. I think I would say if you've had multiple conversations, you can get a gauge on how they think about that stuff, if they're super invalidating or if they're validating and not gonna, try to shame you or make you feel bad. Just trust your opinion. And I think in regards to telling anybody about what you struggle with, first, I would make sure that you're in a good place with yourself and that your cup is filled, especially with mental health. If you struggle with it and OCD, there can be so much shame. So make sure that you're in a good place starting off before you kind of open up to people that you are more nervous to open up to. I feel like a therapist is different. Like even if you're in a really bad place, I would still try to open up to a professional as much as possible. But to relationships, I think that is a little bit more of a complex. I think that can just be a little bit more of a feeling it out type of a thing of when you should mention something. And again, I don't think that you need to share all the details of your intrusive thoughts because they really don't matter. That's just how I think though. But if you feel empowered by telling people stuff and you feel like it's helpful for you to like be like that quicker, then go for it. Like just maybe test it out and see. But I would say make sure that you're in a good spot with yourself. You feel confident and, as much as you can be when you're struggling really badly with OCD. But yeah, figure out what works best for you and what you'd want to share. I think sometimes when you overshare, you kind of know immediately and you take mental note and remind yourself to not overshare like that again. At least I do. Or when you feel like you've been holding back too much. Us humans are pretty intuitive and we're very smart and we pick up on things. So when you maybe had an opportunity to share and you didn't, we also know that pretty quickly. So yeah, just feel it out, trust yourself, and also figure out what would happen if someone did judge you for it and how you would respond and how you would kind of protect yourself and in that type of a situation. Okay, well, I think that's it for today's episode of Dear Abby. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys have a great weekend. If you want to support the podcast, you can leave a rating and a review on Spotify, Apple, or I guess I don't have ratings on YouTube, but you can leave a comment or like and subscribe on YouTube. I just posted my honeymoon vlog if you're interested in watching that on my YouTube. It took a long time to edit. I'm really proud of it, and honestly, it was just a beautiful trip. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you want to leave a Dear Abby question or text, you can call or text a number that's in the description below and under every episode. It can be serious or silly or whatever you want. As you heard, I do a Dear Abby. I answer a Dear Abby question every episode. At the end of the episode, it's a must, so I always need more. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but oh well. I hope you guys have a good weekend. Love you. Bye.